Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and for all those who's listening and watching it from around the world. And we are now live from the corner of Dalton and Lynch Street. It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. Brought to you by Chambers and Galen Law Firm with your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Welcome into the pregame show. Charles Bishop here with my partner Neely. And I tell you what, Neely, 99 NFL draft picks, 51 All-Americans, 16 SWAC championships, 4 Hall of Famers, and 3 Black College National Championships. I tell you what, the fall 2021 season for Jackson State is upon us.
It is here. Chuck, man, we almost back, baby. You know, we have always said around the pregame show that there is no off season with the pregame show because there's no off season for JSU athletics. But we know that the football season is that bell cow. It is leading the charge. When you hear that sound, you know it's time to get going. And we have made it through this summer with a couple of things that we're going to touch on for this episode. But we're getting ready. August is here, Chuck. August is about to be here next week. Time to get the pads on. That puts us about 40 days away from the Orange Blossom Classic taking on FAMU. Lots to get into, lots to discuss. We have covered a lot of ground in this quote-unquote off-season because there is no off-season.
You talk about this quote-unquote off-season. We had a full spring season. We got an opportunity to kind of watch our Tigers go through their ups and downs this past season. But one of the things that Coach Prime talked about was how invaluable it was to get a chance to watch this team go through it in the spring so that he can evaluate what Jackson State football needed, what they, the wants, if you will, the needs. And here we are. Now we're going into this fall 2021 season, and this is where Coach Prime has been pointing towards.
Yeah, I think he has been consistent in that message since the spring ended. And it's interesting to see the evolution, if you will, in that thought process. You know, early on in January and February, he wanted to play, of course, and he was pleased that we were going to have a season. But his tone and tenor at the end of the season was one of a different type of appreciation. He has made it abundantly clear how thankful he is for that season, to not only see what he truly had in that locker room, but to get a grasp of what gaps need to be filled, but also to evaluate the coaching styles of his assistant coaches and even himself. You know, he has gone out of his way to double down like, hey, this is not just about the opportunity we got to evaluate players. I got to evaluate Coach Prime. I got to evaluate my staff. And we grew from the spring in terms of knowing what we were missing, knowing what we needed to keep, what we needed to fix. And it gave them a much needed glimpse and better starting point of preparation for this fall.
No doubt about it. You talk about preparation for the fall. When we take a look back at the spring, Jackson State had their highs, they had their lows. But one of the things that kind of jumped out with regards to Jackson State's offense, it was their best offensive output literally since the 2013 season. They led the SWAC in quite a few offensive categories. You take a look at it, they scored 29 touchdowns this spring. They totaled over 2,400 yards, which both led the SWAC in the spring. They also averaged 176 yards on the ground this past spring.
Man, that's profound. That's why we call you the stat man. That's why I call you Professor Charles, but not Xavier. It's Professor B, baby, because you're going to bring out the numbers. And one of the things that Coach Prime often points out, and he even pointed out about some of those SWAC awards, is he says, well, I didn't see it, you know, because he has a high level expectation. And I think that for fans, when we hear those numbers like, man, wow, we had quite an offensive output, but it didn't match to the record. It didn't match the outcome. So I think that's going to be the deeper dive as we go through August and truly get ready for this fall football season, is how do we get those numbers to translate into W's at the end of the game? Because to lead the SWAC in categories, but finish the season leaving so much meat on the bone the way we did, that's not going to be Coach Prime's standard this fall.
No doubt about it. When we talk about Coach Prime's standard, we go into this fall, and Neely, be quite honest, this has been a complete roster overhaul, if you will. When you take a look at the number of guys that have come onto this roster since the spring, some defections from the roster from this past spring, but all signs are pointing up, and there's a lot of excitement around this Jackson State football program.
There is. We've had several conversations with Coach Prime, with Coach Pollock, with Coach Weeks, Coach Phillips, you name it. We have had sound bites and discussions with them this entire conditioning season for the spring before you get in this fall camp. And every one of them, without reading a script in their own words, has stated emphatically how much better this team is at every unit in every position, down to a player by player basis, not just a line because one guy is better or more dominant, but each position on that line, defense, offense, the upgrades at receiver, the upgrades at running back, you name it. They are excited about the team they put together. I think that excitement is going to spill over to the fans, because I will tell the fans out there, whatever roster you have from the spring season, ball it up, throw it away like I do at the end of every episode, because that roster is completely different. This is a majority new team. You had people on the team that were here in the spring, but they could not dress and play. They were able to practice. So you're going to see people on this field that you hadn't seen before.
No doubt about it. And we talked about it a little bit. When you take a look at all SWAC performers, Aubrey Miller and Keontae Hampton, well, that unit has been added on to by Niles Gaddy, James Houston, transfer from University of Florida. But you take a look position by position, and there's a lot of excitement because, like you just mentioned, the coaching staff, they feel as though they have upgraded across the board on this roster.
They have. When every other week, almost feel like every other day, you were seeing an announcement about another player coming to Jackson State. And some of those players are going to be able to impact the team this fall. Some of those players were here this spring and were able to practice but couldn't play. And they were hungry, Chuck. They were working out in practice, showing what they had, but couldn't show it on the field. And they are excited to now be officially a part of this Tiger program. And right now we had June with that phase one that Coach Pollock talked about when we interviewed him at Coach Prime's camp around the Father's Day weekend. And easy for me to remember that date. I was asking AD earlier what the date was, but it was my birthday. So it was June 18th when we had that camp and talked to Coach Pollock. And he talked about phase one and phase two. And by the time we get to August, that we're not teaching anymore, we're perfecting, because we've done those installs. And that's what we're about to get to. Same thing with Coach Weeks and his defensive line. He talked about how they weren't truly run stoppers up to his standard. He talked about how some of the people in the room, they may be able to play college ball somewhere else, but they couldn't play defensive line for Jackson State. Now, Coach Prime, all the unit coaches, everybody involved in this program, they're saying, we got what we want at each position. Now it's time to put it all together on the field.
No doubt about it. I joke to you all the time. I call you Mr. Boots on the ground, but Coach Prime has taken the pregame show inside the ropes, if you will, and you've had an opportunity to kind of be around practice and take a look, and it's starting to take on that sort of familial atmosphere that we used to always talk about with the Jackson State team, 70s, 80s, 90s, through the comedy years, where it was a family atmosphere, and this team is starting to gel much sooner than even I thought.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. And we had Coach O on back a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about that was the next phase for this team, is to become a family. That we have talent at each position, we have talented units. Now we have to put things in place to bring these guys together as a unit, down to the details of showing up to practice dressed the right way. Not only showing up on time, but showing up dressed the right way. Everybody uniform, everybody succinct, team meetings, strength and conditioning in the weight room after the morning practice sessions. The players on their own without coaches. Coaches are not there on their own doing 7-on-7 workouts. And even this week, you had QB1 Shedeur Sanders coming off of SWAC Media Day. This is supposed to be a down week, if you will. And just yesterday, he had his entire offensive line and receivers out there on that new turf field working out on their own. So these guys are not taking a day off. They know that FAMU, that date is rapidly approaching. They know what they need to do when the coaches are around and when the coaches aren't around. And that's the true test of leadership and character. What do you do when nobody's looking? And to hear that our players are out there doing this work on their own when the coaches are not around, because they want to get out there, they want to perform for Tiger Nation, and more importantly, they want to win.
No doubt about it. Well, we'll take a quick break here on the Black College Sports Network, and we'll get into the sights and sounds of SWAC Media Day as we prepare for fall 2021. It's Neely, it's Bishop here on the pregame show.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Because the fight isn't over yet.
You will see me choose to protect my community by wearing a face cover.
And even with my face covered,
you will see me.
As a son.
As a man with a never quit attitude.
As a fighter for change.
Join me in wearing a face cover.
To help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because this is one small act of kindness
that has the power to make a big difference.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
And welcome back to the pregame show here on the Black College Sports Network. And before we go any further, Neil, we have to always thank our generous sponsors who really have put time and effort into the pregame show. We'd definitely like to thank Amber Slaughter, the project architect, and Chambers and Gaylor for their generous support of the pregame show.
Yeah, those two have been down for day one, man. We've had some sponsors, to come in and sponsor particular episodes, particular events. But those two right there have been steadfast and mainstays, and we're looking forward to sponsorship growth of the program. It all helps grow JSU athletics and our support of that program financially. So if you're looking to be a sponsor, want to reach our target audience, just hit us up on social media and slide in the DMs, as they say, and reach out to us, and we'll let you know how you can be a supporter of this program and a sponsor of JSU athletics.
No doubt about it. Well, Neil, we went to SWAC Media Day, Birmingham, Alabama. And I tell you what, it was a tremendous experience in terms of Jackson State, their presence there at SWAC Media Day. But we got an opportunity to hear from each of the teams on the SWAC, the new expanded SWAC as Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman. They are now part of this 12-team conference. And one of the themes within SWAC Media Day was the parity that you're going to have in the Southwestern Athletic Conference this upcoming season.
Particularly in the East, particularly in the West. When people started dropping those predictions at SWAC Media Day, those quote unquote experts of how they feel things are going to shake out, you had UAPB, who was in the championship game right here in Jackson this spring. I always want to say last year, but it was last season. It was just a couple of months ago. Right. But they didn't get a lot of love, Chuck. And I think that I was surprised a little at the love that FAMU got coming into the SWAC this first season. A lot of people had them rated high. I think we were pretty much consistently across the board coming in at number 3 on most people's recommendations, 3 in the East. That being a tribute to that, yes, we got some dogs in, but this is their first true season together, and true freshman quarterback and those nuances. So, again, Chuck, all those things are wonderful at SWAC Media Day. None of that matters when that first game tips off and we get ready for this football season to go. That's when we're going to really see these true standings and what each team is bringing to the table.
No doubt about it. And you touched on it in terms of looking at the SWAC East. When you take a look at FAMU, Willie Simmons coming into the conference, he is no doubt familiar with the conference, offensive coordinator at Alcorn, head coach at Prairie View. But when we last took a look at this Florida A&M football team of 2019, tremendous season. They knocked off the eventual Celebration Bowl champion that they knocked them off in 2018 and 2019. This Florida A&M team that we faced in the Orange Blossom Classic is going to be a stern test early for the Jackson State Tigers.
I think it will be. FAMU in a lot of regards is like Jackson State, particularly how their season flows. They end the season against their in-state rival, Bethune-Cookman. And a lot of times, no matter how great their season is gone, they hit that bump in the road and they end with a bad taste in their mouth because Bethune-Cookman gets the best of them. And we've had that experience with our in-state rival in Alcorn over the years, over the decades, where you got everything going for you. You get to that Soul Bowl and you just don't close the deal and you end the season on a low note versus a high note. And, this year we start off with FAMU and we close out with Alcorn. I know you sat down with Coach Simmons, and we're going to bring our fans, our Tiger Nations, that interview when you're sit down with him at SWAC Media Day. But I tell you what I took away from this FAMU Orange Blossom Classic Miami game with Jackson State is when Coach Prime talked about QB1, Shedeur Sanders, and what he's been up to, and that when even he was out doing some COVID protocols when the team had to distance themselves for a couple days this summer, he was at home watching 2019 FAM film. Now, we know 2019 is not the same FAM team with 2021, but to have your freshman quarterback on his own reviewing FAM film from their last season just shows you a lot about that young man and the leadership that he brings to the table at that position.
No doubt about it. Neely, you mentioned also coming into this conference, a tough Bethune-Cookman team coached by Terry Sims. You take a look at 2019 SWAC MEAC Challenge. Bethune-Cookman knocked off our Jackson State Tigers. So this is another stern team coming into the conference. Alabama State with Ezra Gray, one of the top rushers in the SWAC. We saw what they were able to do against our Jackson State Tigers this past.
He's still running. He's still running us right now.
Running.
We haven't tackled him yet. But there again, I was about to call you Coach Chuck. There again, Coach, is we have a new defense now. So it's going to be interesting to see how this defense stacks up against that running game, where Ezra will be able to have that same kind of reduction, when we have that matchup. And, interestingly enough, we go to A&M for their homecoming, and Alabama State comes to us for ours. And so we got those two games back-to-back in October.
Back-to-back.
And I think that's when we're really going to hit the meat of that season. Because, Chuck, we play to win. We're preparing to win. We're going to these games to win. I believe we're going to win. But here's something we have to realize going into this season. We open up against FAMU at a neutral site. We'll call it a neutral site. It's in Florida. Miami is just about as far away from Tallahassee as it is from Jackson. So we're going to call it a neutral site because we're going to take over and make it our home. That's not only a SWAC game, it's the Eastern Division game. But after that, we go to Tennessee State that does not have any impact on SWAC standings. We go to Monroe to play University of Louisiana Monroe, does not have any impact on SWAC standings. Then Delta State comes to Jackson, and it does not have any impact on SWAC standings. You and I know with the parity in the SWAC, with the parity in the SWAC East, you can drop an Eastern Division game and still win the SWAC, still win the SWAC East and represent the SWAC East in the championship. So we're in a situation that our fan base, of course, we want to be 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. But we're also in a position where if we happen to drop one of those games, there's no need to panic. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers mode, RELAX. Because the true test of where we are and what we're trying to achieve this season is going to come with those back-to-back games in October.
No doubt about it. But this Jackson State fan base, we laugh about it all the time. Passionate fan base. Let's go ahead and get the wins and not worry about it.
Yeah, that's the game plan. So the game plan, is to go into October with 4-0. That is the game plan. That is the game plan. But we also just have to say now, okay, y'all, should something happen one of those games, and I don't care which one of them it is, we can still represent the SWAC East in the championship game. We can still get to Atlanta. We can still do all those things. So our fan base is passionate, and there's a high level of expectation on this team. Coach Prime touched on the media day that he feels this is the only team in college football, not the SWAC, but the only team in college football who has an expectation placed upon them to win and win right now. And we'll see, how the Tigers hold up to that standard. I know he's not making excuses. The pregame show is not going to make any excuses. And our passionate fan base is not going to make any excuses.
No doubt about it. And you mentioned that October 9th matchup, go to Huntsville, going against the defending SWAC champion, Alabama A&M Bulldogs. Aquil Glass and his bevy of receivers, our Tigers secondary will be tested. But, you take a look at this schedule. You mentioned Alabama A&M, Alabama State, back-to-back. Right behind them is Bethune-Cookman. So you got 3 SWAC East opponents that will all be really determine quite a bit of things in October. That will be definitely a tough, if you will, position right there in the schedule in terms of going forward, moving into November.
Sure. And I appreciate you peeling back the layers on that onion. I was blooming over here because that's exactly what I'm saying. I want to win these September games, and we're preparing to win these September games. And August is going to be about week 1, about FAMU. Then we got a short week going to Tennessee State. But here's what I am looking forward to, and what I'm going to have my measuring stick out for is, are we getting better in September? Because we have a bye week before we go on that Alabama and Bethune-Cook stretch, if you will, that SWAC East stretch. And when we get to A&M, we need to be a better team than we were at Tennessee State, a better team than we were at Monroe. That's what I'm looking for, a better team than we were when Delta State came to town. Whether you win or lose the game, are we growing and getting better, that 1% better? Are we doing the things so we can peak at the right time, win these very important SWAC East games? Because there's 3 in a row, Chuck. That is 3 in a row.
No doubt about it. And you talk about getting 1% better each game. We both know it all starts in the trenches. And talk about defensive line, offensive line. We had an opportunity to sit down and talk with Dylan Spencer, who was named one of the 3 starters already going into this fall season. So Dylan had quite a bit to tell us in terms of what to expect going into this fall 2021 season.
Looking for quality seafood with friendly service? Then the Fish Shack is the place for you. We're fast, fresh, and convenient, and ready to serve you today. You can order online and come in, or pick up your food curbside. We have outdoor seating as well. Need something to cool your taste buds? We have tasty daiquiris that you're sure to love. So come see us today at the Fish Shack in Byram, where we have great seafood and good daiquiris.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Okay, so how long have you been coming?
And welcome into the pregame show, Charles Bishop and Neely. And I tell you what, we have with us tonight one of the individuals who Coach Prime, he named him already as a starter going into this fall season. Dylan Spencer, welcome into the pregame show.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Man, anytime, big dog. On this episode, we're just kind of recapping what's been going on this summer. You guys will be coming back that first week of August to really get going for fall camp, focusing on FAMU for the first game. So just wanted to sit down with you, man, as really big time news. You know, you are one of 3 people that Coach Prime has designated as a starter for the Tigers. You got Niles Gaddy on the defensive side of the ball. Shedeur Sanders is QB1. And he spoke highly of you on a recent sit down with the pregame show. He said, look, Dylan Spencer is a grown man out there. So how's it been feeling this summer? And how does it feel to get that kind of props from Coach Prime?
I mean, it feels good. It feels great. You know, he's a Hall of Famer in the NFL. I looked up to him ever since I was a little kid, you know. And then hearing that from him, that just makes me go even harder.
You know, Dylan, what is it like in terms of getting ready for this fall season? In terms of just it's time to sort of remove the stars, if you will, and get down to the dirty work of preparing for this fall 21 season.
I mean, I love putting on the pads. You know, everybody do all the talking, this and that. But when you put on them pads, it's you and him. So he got to show you how he made all that stars. Ain't going to matter when you get on that field between them lines.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, good stuff. Sure. So in June, you know, you guys got about 3 weeks or so of strength and conditioning in. Took a week off, came back in July. Did another round of that with some installs as well, you know, working with your position coaches and also strength and conditioning. And as you just said, when it comes back in August, now it's pad times. What are some of the things you've learned this summer as far as your growth and development in playing Tiger football?
I learned a lot. My coach, my O-line coach, he taught me a lot of new techniques I can use on the field. And I learned to grow as a person, you know. As you go through college, you learn to grow as a person, not only in football, but off the field. So I'm glad to be here at Jackson State. I'm learning a lot.
No doubt about it. Dylan, I wanted to ask, you know, you transferred in from University of Missouri, come from this great Madison Central High School in terms of the production that they have over there at Madison Central. But how is it going to feel in terms of playing in front of friends and family back here at Jackson State?
It's going to feel great. I played 8.5 hours up in Missouri. I didn't have really nobody I knew on the stand, so I'm back at home. I'm trying to have all my family in there every Saturday.
Yeah, good stuff. And, you know, our first 3 games are on the road. We open up just around 40 days from now in Miami versus FAMU. Then we travel to Tennessee State, which is in Memphis. So it's going to be somewhat of a home game for you. I'm sure you have some fans there. But then September 25th weekend, right here in Jackson, Delta State, all your family, you know, you're the local guy, hometown hero, will get to see you play in person. You get to come out that Tiger's mouth to the Sonic Boom of the South.
Oh, yes, sir. I can't wait. You know, just look up every Saturday to see my mom in the stand. That's what I do it for, so I can't wait for that.
You know, Dylan, for Jackson State fans who aren't familiar with your play, talk about Dylan Spencer, the football player.
Well, Dylan Spencer, you know, no matter what play we run, it could be a pass play or a run play. I'm gonna be aggressive every play, you know. I'm gonna try to finish my opponent every time. That's just how I play the game.
Yeah, Chuck, I'll tell you this, man. I have had the privilege of attending some of these closed practice sessions, representing the pregame show, giving our fans a sneak peek. And, you know, I don't know if Dylan knows, but I keep an eye on him during some of those drills. And, man, he is nonstop motor. He does not take a play off. Even without the pads, he's out there being aggressive and competing. So you can see those things, you know, that Coach Prime has been telling us about when he sees a Dylan Spencer. So I know Tiger Nation is going to be looking forward to seeing it in action. Because, Dylan, when you look at that spring season, you know, yes, there was some criticism, if you will, on the offensive line play. And the offensive line had a lot of transitions through injuries or guys leaving the program. And now, you know, going into fall 21 season, you almost have 2 or 3 units of offensive lines that can compete. How do you feel, not only being that recognized demand, the big dog on the offensive line, but how also encouraging is it for you as a leader on that line to have so much depth that you see versus compared to what you had in the spring?
I'm excited about this depth that we have. I mean, even in the third team, we have guys, you know, pancaking people. I mean, it's great to see, you know, like if someone were to go down, this next man up mentality. So we got people 3 deep that can play the game.
You know, Dylan, people talk all the time about how offensive lines need to gel and sort of get that continuity. Do you feel, you know, early on in terms of strength and conditioning that you guys are starting to gel early and will be ready, getting ready to go into fall camp?
Yes, sir. I feel like we have a lot of more, you know, bonding than we had in the spring. Everybody's starting to get along because we know we all have the same goal. That's to win SWAC championship. So we got to come together, and the O-line has to be the heartbeat of the team.
One thing I've noticed, Dylan, in these practices when you guys are doing installs and some walkthroughs is that hurry up and get into the line of scrimmage off the huddle. It is fast-paced on this offensive line, and that's where the conditioning is key because one of the first things to go when you get fatigued is the mind and that attention to detail. So what else are you looking forward to growth-wise these next 40 days before we get to that week one as you get to August and put the pads on? What do you see for yourself that you want to clean up and work on, and what do you see for that unit as a whole?
I mean, for me as myself, I want to be able to go through the whole game, as the same way that I started, hard the whole game. We do a lot of conditioning at practice. I believe that's going to help the whole team out, especially the O-line. Like you as a team as a whole, like I said, we got a game. Like Coach is big on conditioning right now. I believe that's great for us.
No doubt about it. Well, Dylan, any final words that you want Jackson State fans to know before you guys get ready to go full steam ahead going toward the fall?
I just want everybody to know to come out to Miami September 5th. I promise you don't want to miss it. It's going to be a show.
No doubt about it.
Yes,
well, I tell you what, that was Dylan Spencer here with Neely and Bishop here on the Black College Sports Network. It's the pregame show.
Okay, so how long have you been coming to Stanford?
Since 1987. I've forever loved Stansburg because the people, they're real people. They help the community and their family own and operate. And the food, the quality, and service has always been phenomenal. And anywhere I'm at, I always recommend people to them. It's great food, and you get enough love for your money. If you need a good place to eat and you want a good environment to support the community and support the effort of the Jackson community, I recommend Stamp's Superburger to you because, like I said,
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
And welcome back to the pregame show here on the Black College Sports Network. Neely, we mentioned those teams back to back in terms of Alabama A&M, Alabama State, Bethune-Cookman, but we have to always deal with a pesky and resurgent Mississippi Valley State football team that always plays our Jackson State Tigers tough.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, this is going to be an interesting Valley for another reason. We go to Valley this year. We traveled there, and there has been a interesting relationship to develop between Coach Prime and Valley's head coach. They had some great conversations at SWAC Media Day, and I think Tiger fans and Delta Devil fans should be aware and have an eye out for some unique partnerships that are going to develop in that regard, how these two rival schools on the football field can do some things in the off season and back of house operations to support each other as we try to uplift all HBCUs. I can tell you that Coach Prime has been in discussions with Valley They've had some great, conversations, and going to be some great things to come from it. But once we get off that bus, and it's time to play ball in Valley, Valley's going to be there to win. We're going to be there to win. And that's not going to be so much about leveling the playing field that day. It's going to be in the spirit of competition. And Valley always plays a tough game. They came here this spring, and although the final score may not show it, they were one or two plays away from making that game very competitive, especially in the first half. So looking again for a competitive game out of Valley when we go there. A lot of the people who ranked the preseason had them at the bottom. Does not mean by any means they play like a bottom team. On any given Saturday, somebody can win. But here again, Chuck, what is that? That is another SWAC East game.
No doubt about it. Another SWAC East game. So you have to be loaded for bear, ready for this Mississippi Valley State team. Like I said, they get up for Jackson State like no other team on our schedule. So they'll be ready to play.
Mm-hmm. They will be. They will be. I think the Tigers will be ready as well. We would have that September on our belt. We'll have that first part of October under our belts, and have that bye week before we go to the Alabama stretch, as we call it. And then it's pedal to the metal, man, as we just go all the way to November 30th at that point.
No doubt about it. And as we go towards November 30th, we take on the SWAC West part of the schedule as the Texas Southern Tigers. They fight to get out of the cellar of this tough SWAC West. They come into Jackson, and then Jackson State University, we put Tiger Nation on the road. We head down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to take on the Southern Jaguars.
Texas Southern didn't get a lot of love at SWAC Media Day as far as people's expectations of them. But interestingly enough, we sat down with Jay Walker from ESPN, who commentates on the games with Tiffany Green, and Jay was big on Texas Southern. He said, "Hey, I don't they're going to win it all, but I think Texas Southern's going to get some games and play some people tough. So it's going to be interesting to make sure we don't look past that schedule, that we take this thing week by week and we look past Texas Southern and just go ahead and get ready for that road trip down to Baton Rouge, because that road trip to Baton Rouge were for the first time in 9 years we without Dawson Odoms, but they're still going to be looking to play some tough ball when you come over that bridge."
No doubt about it. The Jason Rollins era gets underway for Southern University. This is a team. They bring back 10 of 11 starters on offense, bring back a number of starters on defense. For a lot of prognosticators at SWAC Media Day, they were sort of the odds-on favorite to win SWAC West.
Yeah, and we'll see. We'll see how it shakes loose because, now Alcorn is over in the SWAC West. And Alcorn is going to have a lot to say about that. Alabama A&M, of course, wants to have a lot to say about that in the East. But in the West, you got Alcorn is not going to be messing around. You got UAPB that's saying they want to have a say in this thing as well. So, hey, Chuck, we're about 4 weeks away from all this nonsense of if then, and we're going to get to some woulda, coulda, shouldas. Because when that ball is kicked off for the Jackson State Tigers at the Orange Blossom Classic, man, it's time to play some ball and win. But before we get there, we got to get to August, and it's almost August. So it's almost time to get those pads on and for Coach Prime and his staff to start setting those depth charts and naming those other starters and seeing who's going to be first out that Tiger's mouth when it's time to play ball.
No doubt about it. To close the season out, of course, it's Old Bowl time with the Alcorn State Braves. Returning quarterback, SWAC Offensive Player of the Year, Felix Harper, Nico Duffy, LaCharles Pringle, and Fred McNair. He doesn't get the credit I believe he often deserves, but he always has the Alcorn State Braves ready to play. They have been the standard, if you will, in the SWAC East. They switch over to the SWAC West now, but we're still going to get this spirit of the Alcorn State Brave football team.
And if you think you're going to mention the Alcorn State Braves on the pregame show and I not throw in opt-out you, and it's still calendar 2021, you got another thing coming. Yes, opt-out you, Soul Bowl is back in Jackson. They make that short drive up from Norman for a Soul Bowl weekend. Coach Prime's first Soul Bowl, because we didn't get to play this spring when they opted out of the season. But that's going to be a tough game. Coach Weeks talked about it when we talked with him from Coach Prime's camp, that Alcorn maybe had some ring rust from sitting out the spring. But because that's the last game of the season, that rust will be gone. We're going to get Alcorn at its best. We should definitely be at our best. It's going to be a hell of a matchup, Chuck. The Soul Bowl always is. And what's interesting about this Soul Bowl, let me throw this in, Chuck, is this is a Soul Bowl where you could play each other a few days later in the SWAC championship, because they're in the West and we're in the East, and you could see a rematch.
No doubt about it. It should be plenty of storylines going into that game because, like you say, there is that possibility that could be a preview of the SWAC championship. Our Jackson State Tigers, they get ready for a fall camp next week. Neely, I tell you what, as a fan of Jackson State, alumnus of Jackson State, and as somebody who has grown up within this culture of Jackson State football, this 2021 season is one that I'm completely looking forward to. It's been a long time since we've been on the winning side of the ledger. It's time to get back.
I agree with that assessment, Chuck. I think this is one of the most exciting upcoming Jackson State seasons in our history. You know, and I'm going back to looking forward to Brazil and Peyton playing together and Vernon Perry, you know, the kind of excitement you knew those players were going to bring. We have a true freshman quarterback who at the time of his signing with Jackson State was our highest recruit out of high school in Jackson State history. Since that time, there have been other 4 stars to join him in that effort. We've had a bevy of transfers. We had guys on the sideline like a Niles Gaddy, like a Shiloh Sanders, like a Dylan Spencer, who were on this team and around this team in the spring but could not play. And now they get to put those pads on, the helmets on. So the buzz could not be higher. We would encourage everybody, couple of things. One, get vaccinated. Encourage your friends and family to get vaccinated. We need to create an atmosphere, particularly in our community, the African-American, the Black community, the SWAC community, the HBCU community, the 1400 Lynch Street community, where we have maximized our opportunities to be vaccinated so that we can safely attend games. And I know that Delta variant is out there now, but the truth is in the science that although you can still get the virus with the vaccination, it does not have the impact on you that it would without the vaccination. So one, there's a 90% rate of not getting infected when you're vaccinated. 2, if you should be in that 10% that still gets the virus, it does not have the hospitalization aspect. So as we're talking football, Chuck, let's encourage everybody to get vaccinated because we want the bands in the stands. We want the student athletes to have 40,000 up there, and it's going to be us. On us, rather. It's going to be on us if that happens or not. So we look forward to that, Chuck. We look forward to, this season. So once we get vaccinated, let's go get those season tickets. Let's go get those tailgate passes. Let's fill up the vet on September 25th weekend, that first home game. Let's make plans to get to Miami for the Orange Blossom Classic. Let's go take over Memphis like we always do. There's a short little drive from Mississippi over to Monroe for that third game. But then when Delta State comes here for that Soul Field weekend, that's happening because, you got Jackson State and Delta State on Saturday, Southern out of Baton Rouge and Mississippi Valley on Sunday, both at the vet. It all starts with us getting vaccinated, Chuck. All starts with us doing the right things, the precautionary things as we go through August and get ready for this kickoff of this season.
No doubt about it, Neely. Please, Tiger Nation, do your part. Get vaccinated. I tell you what, this is a season that we've all been looking forward to in terms of this fall 2021 season. 4 stars, 3 stars, transfer portal, everything is in place. The trajectory is moving forward. But I tell you what, throw it all out the window. It's time to finally come together as Tiger Nation as one and get ready for the Orange Blossom Classic, Neil.
Yeah, amen, brother. And we would encourage you because we're going to be there covering practices in August. A lot of this content will be exclusive. You heard Coach Prime say it right there in Media Day. Hey, brothers, if ESPN wants something, they got to get it from y'all because I trust them. I mean, I trust y'all. I don't trust them. So you're going to have to see things from the pregame show platform. So we're going to be at practices on a regular basis, be at team meetings, getting some special interviews with coaches, bring you all the information we can as we lead up to the Orange Blossom Classic. So here's the steps. We talk about getting vaccinated. Here's the step. Go to social media and like the pregame show on whatever platform. Follow it, share it, make comments, subscribe on YouTube. Shout out to everybody on that YouTube channel, man. It is going through the roof, Chuck. Those comments from the fans on YouTube are just totally engaging, and the folks replying back to each other. We didn't have the YouTube channel during this spring season. We created it in late April when the season ended. But you would see the following and the number of views that those shows are getting has just been phenomenal. So thank you to everybody for your support of the pregame show. But don't let up. because we're coming with different content on each platform. So by the time we get to this fall, there'll be things on Instagram that you don't see on Facebook, things on Facebook that you don't see on YouTube. So you want to follow all those platforms to get all your The Pregame Show, I believe, Go Tigers information that you can out of that JSU locker room.
No doubt about it. I couldn't echo those sentiments any better. We want to thank you, all those that have definitely taken the time and effort to follow the pregame show, like, subscribe, and comment. We are so appreciative, and we look forward to bringing you even better content in the fall. So on the behalf of my partner, Neely, Mr. Boots on the ground himself, the spectacle one, and Charles.
Oh, I got the glasses right here, Chuck.
Oh, give me the glasses. Give me the glasses. The bespectacled one, the man so great, he's only known by one name, Neely, and Charles Bishop here on the pregame show on the Black College Sports Network. We'll see you on the other side.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and for all those who's listening and watching it from around the world. And we are now live from the corner of Dalton and Lynch Street. It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. Brought to you by Chambers and Galen Law Firm with your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.